Alan, what is Rosneft? That is one question I have actually, given the news that the European Union is likely to impose much tighter financial and technology sanctions against the Russian state-owned oil champion. And, you know, it trades about 4 times forward earnings. It's cheap like almost every other Russian stock. And yet the question is, what affects it the most? The financing or the technology?
I think in the short term, the financing is a bigger issue. Over the next few months, it's going to be harder and harder. If it isn't already hard, it's going to get harder and harder to finance, certainly out of Europe, already the US. Longer term, I think the technological issues may play a bigger part if they are cut off from US and Western oil technology, particularly in the oil services sector. The Russians have a fair bit of their own technology. They're perfectly capable, but there may be certain areas for more complicated projects which would require more US and Western oil technology.
Now, I mean, sanctions will create a slightly isolationist Russia, putting it lightly.
Yeah. That'd be unusual, wouldn't it? Yeah.
and so my question, again, this goes to the what is Rosneft question. It's state-owned, it's fairly bureaucratic. I mean, for example, it actually forecasts oil production. I mean, do you know of any other oil company which does that?
Yeah, of course, other oil companies forecast oil production, maybe 1, 2, 3 years. I'm talking about listed companies. But it's unusual because it's implicit in the forward agreements they've done with, say, CNPC of China, the national oil company, where they have agreed to sell them oil over a long period of time in exchange for prepayments. It's kind of implicitly a long-term production forecast. Mm-hmm. It may not seem like such a large proportion of production now, 10 or 15%, but implicit in that is some very sort of high confidence that everything's going to be fine over 25, 30 years.
Prepays go back to the financing issue, and if we have production targets, and at least shareholders who make a bet on Rosneft stock can actually see whether it's meeting them. Very interesting. Thank you, Alan.